Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Trading Triangle. How are you, Kay?
I'm doing great, man. Happy Sunday. What a week we had last week.
I know, yeah, we'll jump into that in a little bit. Obviously, we've got Spine QQ doing very, very well. I never actually announced my name. I always announce your name, but obviously you can see my name is Sean Trades down there in the top bottom left corner there. We're just a couple of guys looking at charts, so it's not financial advice. We just love doing it. We love giving our perspectives and thoughts through options and shares, etc., and things like that. Obviously, massive thank you to Wolf as well for letting us use the platform. We couldn't do it without you. And of course, put your ticker requests in the comments as always. We'll get to them in a little bit, of course. We go through kind of earnings, buying QQQ, our own weekly picks as well, and then we'll jump into the ticker requests. So it won't be too long before we do that. Yeah, how was your week trading, Kay?
I didn't trade much this week. I only traded Uber one trade throughout the week. I was traveling mostly for work. So every time I am traveling, I tend to not open trades because that's a recipe for disaster. You don't know what's happening, you're not tracking it. So that's something for folks should keep in mind as
Yeah,
well.
it's tricky trading. Well, actually, kind of working in general, really, not necessarily traveling. And if you're working full time, it's tricky to sometimes trade, especially day trade. But yeah, no, I'm glad it went well, even though you
How was
didn't trade
yours?
too much.
How was yours?
It was good. I quite possibly over traded in spots. I must admit, I'll be honest with that. Not a problem with that. But I came out on top and quite healthily on top as well, so I'm not going to complain. But there's definitely a few things I need to work on, kind of tweak, into my trading strategy going forward. But yeah, should we jump into the slideshow for today?
Let's do that. And we are getting some requests as well. So
Oh yes, of course. We've got George here with Meta. We'll get that down on the list for you. Hello from Knoxville, Tennessee. Wow,
I have
yeah.
hello as well.
And of course, Money Manage back again. We really, really appreciate it. Nike, Apple, and Uber as well. So yeah, we'll get to them in a little bit. But of course, we start the week on April 28th, tomorrow. And then last week, I mean, where do we start? So we've got, of course, Google posted earnings on Thursday. They were very, very good beat on EPS. Only up 5% now on the week, which is quite interesting. But maybe we can look at them a bit later on because I've got a bit of a theory on them for a possible trade. Other ones, we've got Apple, Nvidia, Amazon floating around the 6 to 7%. And then the big one over here on the right side, we've got Tesla up 17%. Did you see that coming, Kay?
I did not see that coming
No.
from such a poor earning performance. But we also know that the market is very, they are putting a premium on Elon Musk coming back to Tesla. I think that the number that you see here is that anticipation. So sometimes it's not very rational, the market, the way it behaves. But we'll see how it goes out. That 17% doesn't make a big dent. It's near the 300. So we want the stock to be above 300 now. And if hopefully it can take the stock above 300 in at least in the run up to Robotaxi event, which will be in June sometime.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they can build on this momentum. A few names to kind of worth looking at is obviously Netflix up 13%, not overly hit by the tariff news too much. Palantir up 20% as well, and then that's a crowd favorite from some people. And AMD actually getting a little bit of love down here. You can't quite see it, but almost 9%. Maybe someone will bring that up a little bit later on, but AMD is Advanced Money Destroyer, isn't that right?
That's what I heard on Twitter. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Advanced Money Destroyer. And look at that. Like such a blowout earning for Google, only up like 4.97% for the week. Like
I know, yeah.
it's a shame, but hey, it is what it is.
I mean, it could be an opportunity as well, but hopefully we can get that on the screen a little bit later on and go through Google. So here we go. Fear and Greed Index. We're sitting at 35. Last week we were at 19. I think the week before we were around 3 or something like that. So it's coming back up. People are getting a bit more confidence within the market. It's a little bit more kind of confidence, I guess, with their trading, etc. Sorry, my watch just beeped. I'm not too sure what that was, but here we go. SPY up almost 6% and a QQQ up almost 8%. So it's been quite a week. Do you want to talk through the key events that we've got coming up this week?
Absolutely. And so the US Treasury, which is 10-year, it's sticking at 424. And the reason we track that from now on, because this is the whole tariff game that has begun, is because to bring down the US 10-year Treasury, rate. So we'll track that moving forward. And so as you start seeing that inching up, that's when the market will start to take a hit. Key events: Mag 7 earnings. This is one of the biggest, busiest week for earnings, and then of course the job numbers that come out as well, which will be key. You can see the put to call ratio. It has dipped to 0.8, which is getting bullish, and the VIX has dropped from 35 last week to 24. So if things are going well, we could probably see VIX dropping below 20 in the coming week. So keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be looking for that sub $20 level for VIX this week, maybe perhaps as well. But yeah, not much in the way of key events. Obviously, like you said, the earnings are probably the biggest kind of market movers. But yeah, we'll see what happens there almost. But it's nice to see a little bit more confidence coming back into the markets, but still plenty of room to go and on that fear and greed index. Moving on to earnings, there's lots on this screen. I think I'll just point out the fact, obviously, we've got Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple on Wednesday and Thursday after the market close, respectively. Some other big names that I'm looking at personally before we jump into what Kay's looking at. Robinhood, for me, of course, is a big one. I'm actually a little bit interested in Reddit because I've actually started using it recently. I want to see if they've kind of built on their last few good quarters as well. But that's kind of it. Obviously, you've got SoFi, but I'm going to let you hand over to that because I think you're probably looking at SoFi, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at SoFi. It'll probably have a beat as well over there. I don't know how much the stock will move post that. Visa is another one that we want to really watch. And the reason we want to watch Visa is because on the future guidance for Visa, if you go back 2 weeks or 3 weeks back, we heard from European Union that they are looking to get off of American products, specifically in the payment sector from like Visa and MasterCard. So we want to really see if Visa has starting seeing something that, or is it just it was just a news headline. Then we also have Qualcomm on Wednesday, and then some big ones to watch will be McDonald's, Eli Lilly, which is the Lilly on Thursday before open. So those are a couple ones that I'll be watching, and then we have Chevron and ExxonMobil on the energy side on Friday before open.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty here on the screen. I think a few people might be interested in Spotify as well. Maybe First Solar for that indication of the solar industry. I know I keep a little eye on that for the future, but not too much going on there in terms of the way of hope, I guess. It's probably the best way to put it. But yeah, still plenty to go on. I think we're probably going to have about the next 3 or 4 weeks is going to be pretty hot on earnings. But this one's probably the biggest one, obviously, with the big four on the screen there, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple. But yeah, we'll move on to the first chart of the week, which is SPY. And it's looking very, very impressive. As we mentioned before, it's almost 6% up on last week in the last 5 trading days. And you can see that represented on the screen. So the first candle Monday was a bit of a volatile one, pushed all the way down to kind of 510 and then kind of ended around 511. And then just basically from then onwards, we kind of gapped up, not quite a gap up on Thursday and another little gap up on Friday. So it's been a bit of an exciting week for investors and traders, etc. But it's worth noting the fact that obviously we do have a bit of resistance here coming up at 560, not only with the volume profile here we have on the right side, but the 50 moving average is coming here as well. This is a bit of a different moving average. I know some people have different moving averages. I use the smooth moving average. Just think it kind of looks better. And it sometimes actually plays a little bit better on the smaller time frame. So it's just kind of sat on my chart like this. But I think the one thing that most people are talking about is the break of this trend line, which we've had on the screen here on these streams actually for about 3 or 4 weeks now. So it's kind of breaking through that. And for me, that is a break because we've had that Thursday candle, which is really nice, closing above it. And then we had the Friday candle also closing above it as well, which means in my book, that is a break of trend line. And then perhaps we are making a move to this 560. So I've said it there. I think 560 is in sight. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, of course, because it's just my perspective. What's your perspective, Kay? I've waffled on a bit more about this.
No problem. So I have a little bit of a different perspective than you. So first, I think we don't use 300-day SMA, but 300-day SMA is right sitting at 551.63. So you will be basically coming very close, touching that area. So that would act as a resistance. Second is the last trading was on 4.2. So from on 4.2, the stock dipped and created this gap down. So we have starting to fill that gap up right now with the latest scandal. And I don't want to say this, but once it fills this gap, I think the 559, I think you mentioned it, 560 is where I think there will be a lot of resistance. And I don't know yet. I might want to short that at that level. But again, when I say short, it doesn't mean basically opening a call credit spread at that level. but again, I don't know if I will do it or not, but it looks very highly likely that we will hit a resistance, because you're also coming to the 50-day SMA at 561. So a lot of confluence, right? You're having first resistance is your 300-day SMA around 551. Second, you're hitting the 50 SMA 561. You're filling the gap, and you are also coming up to the previous resistance of 557 558, which was resistance all the way back last October, sorry, August 8, yeah, August. So a lot of confluences there. That's what I think.
Did you notice that I changed? Sorry, a bit off topic. Did you notice I changed my pointer to a white pointer so people can see it more?
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see it.
I'm a man of the people, I like to try and make it easy for them to see. But the gap that you were talking about there, Kay, was this one here,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes,
Just here, so it's not far
yes.
away at all. And you said that was about 552, is that right? 553.
553, yes.
Yeah, so that kind of area must be must be a place that people should be aware of. Obviously, I know I said straight to 560, but of course, nothing ever works straight in one direction. And it must be said, of course, we have had a very good week. It's not to say it won't continue, but it's just sometimes people like to take profits, of course. Perhaps if they've taken a few bets down here for the market going upwards. Yes, so that's kind of it really for SPY, isn't it?
That's pretty much it. I think we have a couple questions.
Yes, I just saw them coming through. So we've got, please go over the daily NASDAQ 100. We're about to do that. We're about to go on to the QQQs. So we can do that for you in a second, Mark. And then, of course, Nate Cux, I don't know how to say that. Why NVIDIA premium is so stupid? I always get burned with calls on a good earnings, but in the red. Kay, you take that one because you're an options man.
So I'm assuming are you looking at the selling of the premiums, or are you buying calls? That, if you can clarify that. But I'm assuming that most of the times the premiums are dictated by the liquidity in the stock, and as they say, is like the buy the rumor, sell the news event. And I think Nvidia in general has a lot of overhangs because of the tariffs and the way just the industry operates. A lot of competition in terms of, like, there's really not much competition in terms of what Nvidia is producing, but still, like, you have AMD coming on, you have Qualcomm Snap, and you have Broadcom operating in different capacity. But going back to this point, is it's I don't know how you trade it, but generally, if you're selling options, Nvidia premiums are pretty good. But if you're buying call options, if you can clarify that, I can probably answer that question better. I think there's another question from George.
Oh, yeah, okay. So here we go. I missed that one. Sorry, George. I pulled my 401k out in March. Should I put the puppy back in? Well, we're not here to give financial advice, because obviously you have your own money and you do your own thing with your money. We don't have 401ks as such over here.
It's a retirement account, basically.
Yeah, so yeah, it's basically like a pension almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tricky one to say with the market the way it is. It's so volatile still. I mean, like we've had on the charts before, it dropped about, what was it, about 25% or something, maybe 20% on the NASDAQ, and it's gone back up now 15%, something like that. So it's a very tricky time to put that amount of money in. But of course, I'm not going to continue blubbering on about that. But for me personally, I think I'd just continue dollar cost averaging into the market over a long period of time. Any thoughts on this one, Kay?
Yeah, so I think you shouldn't be trading your 401k. That's the first, my take is I don't trade my 401k account. I have a trading account where I trade. So investing and trading are two different sports. In investing, it's for investors, it's always buy and hold. Like, because 401k you are not going to touch until you're 65. I'm believing that you can probably take your money out. So why trade that account? And it's always, if you're a 401k, you pretty much are, your paycheck, whatever your contribution limit is, you'll put that percentage in. It goes into a particular fund, and that's it. Just leave your 401k. There's just a lot of nonsense online from people about buying, selling 401k, and people look at their 401k. The problem is, if you cannot access that money today, what is the point of you to worry about it? If you'll access it 20 years, 30 years from now, we don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. Why worry about that? today. So I think in my perspective, what I do with my 401k is I just buy and I let it run the S&P 500 in there, and I forget it. I'll touch the 401k, in decades from now, right? So why bother? I have a trading account. I actively trade in that trading
Yeah.
account. So I buy and sell regularly, and it's a taxable brokerage account, unlike the tax deferred account for 401k.
Yeah, I think that's wise advice there. I mean, just a little bit for me as well. My pension is basically it's obviously, you mentioned funds, of course, and you've got lots of different types of funds. Mine's a slightly higher risk fund because I feel like I can understand that type of asset a little bit more. So maybe that's something you can have a look at. Maybe have a look at different funds within your, potential, your 401k provider, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just reevaluate it. We kind of go from there.
Yeah.
We do have a bit of clarification here from Nate KUX. To clarify, place calls and play earnings are great, but calls are at a loss.
Okay, so I think I get it. So you're basically buying calls. So what I would recommend is it's okay to have losses, right? That's how you learn the whole trading process. Yeah. But if you have watched us before, and Sean is a very, very big proponent, have a very tight stop losses. So for example, if you're playing earnings, you should have very, very tight stop losses. So for example, let's say if you're playing an earning, right? And if you want to, let's say 20% stop loss, just make sure you put that trigger in so that it takes you out of the trade. What ends up happening in generally when you are trading call options or any type of trade is like, once it goes against you, you're like, okay, maybe I can recover it. Maybe I can recover. I have more time in the options contract, so maybe I can recover it. That tends to never happen. Stick to your stop losses and get out of the trade, because you might have 5 small losses, but that 2 or 3 big wins will basically cover for those 5 losses and more.
So I think a little word for me, obviously, you said about me having tight stop losses. I think probably with options, yes, sure. But with shares, I tend to have slightly bigger stop losses. But that's just a personal thing for me, just because you can kind of work out the maximum loss of the particular move over earnings, and perhaps that might be your barrier of entry. But then you just lower your size in accordance to that. We've got plenty of questions coming along. We've got a little bit of reply here from Nate as well. We'll continue this conversation slightly. Play earnings. I place a call with a 2-day expiration. That sounds a bit risky to me.
That is, yeah. So basically, you get IV crush. That's exactly what happens, right? So that's one of the challenges when you have such a small window of opportunity. So it's basically, I mean, you're playing. It's more of a gamble that it goes your way. So you will win. It's not that you will not win. It's just the number of times you will win versus you will lose, right?
Exactly,
the chances of you losing is higher than chances of you winning. If you play 10 times,
We've had another question here as well. DB, we do see you, but we just had a mid-conversation as elsewhere. But why Tesla went so high when the bad owners, I don't understand. I mean, Kay spoke a bit earlier, didn't you? Is that in the stream?
Yeah.
So if you rewind, have a look at that. I think it's about 5 minutes in. It's not too far in. We spoke a little bit about Tesla and kind of how that might be affecting them. And we've got a couple more questions as well. What's your thinking about MGM? They will go higher after earnings or down. MGM is not one I look at too much, but it's a gambling stock. Is that right?
We can take that as an audience.
We'll do that. That's good. Yeah. That's a good one. And I think we've also got SoFi looking very bullish for the week, so maybe add that to the list as well.
Yep.
We'll get back to the charts because we've kind of gone away slightly. We'll jump onto the NASDAQ 100, which I think someone was asking for anyway. It's much the same as the SPY, but it looks just a little bit more promising in terms of the way it's kind of pushed through the trend line. And of course, the 200 moving average, which is the red line flowing through the screen. Kind of used it as support and then pushing a lot higher, coming up to a lot of volume and a lot of resistance in the way of moving averages. So there's a lot there. Anything, Kay, for this one?
Yeah, no. So same structure, and you are coming to close to the 300-day SMA. You're coming close to the 50-day SMA, and generally, like it's for especially for index funds, right, or S&P 500, NASDAQ. In general, the rule should be, if you are close to 200-day SMA, 300-day SMA, it's basically you buy it, right? Because you're getting a very, very good price. And generally, indexes are not available at these prices because you'll tend to buy always at the top. Like, okay, you're buying a 20-day SMA or 50-day SMA. But generally, 300-day, 200-day SMAs are pretty good spots to add on to your long-term position. But again, long-term position, buy and hold, unless you trade SPY and QQQ.
I think you ended that one well. We'll move on to my pick of the week. And so I don't know if you know, but we are kind of keeping a loose tally, and perhaps we should introduce a new slide just for me to gloat a little bit. But I'm now 6-0 ahead after
Oh my god.
last week. What did we pick last week? I picked Hood, and you picked SMCI, didn't you?
Yeah.
It was
I
very
mean,
close. It was
it's
very,
like
very close.
they both were winners. It's just
Yeah.
that you had a bigger percentage win
I
than me.
believe Hood was up 21% or something like that, and yours was actually up 19%. So there wasn't
18,
much
yeah,
in it.
18, 19, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we both picked really good winners, and if obviously you did take any sort of thoughts from that, then of course, well done. But of course, we've got some picks this week as well. I've gone for HIMS. As you can see on the screen here, it's kind of forming a little bit of a wedge kind of pattern after kind of using 24 and 25 as support. I wanted to kind of come back down to kind of 24, 25 to start our position anyway, but it didn't quite manage that. So now I'm thinking maybe I have a smaller kind of shorter term time period, if that makes sense, to make a little bit more money that way. So of course we've got a bit of a volume profile around this kind of $26 to $28 level. And if we can just get a bit of a breakout basically from this trend line coming downwards, I think that would be really good for the stock. We do have earnings in a couple of weeks' time, which I think will be a bit of a catalyst, of course.
5-5.
5-5. Okay, so it's not far away then. So that'll be interesting to see if they can do well once again. HIMS, if you don't know, is a revenue machine. It is absolutely incredible. Go back and look at their balance sheets and their operation expenses. It's really quite incredible what they're doing over there at the company.
So I just add to that what you said. So
Yeah,
in
of course.
December 2020, their revenue was 41 million, and in December 2024, their revenue is 481 million.
There you go. So that's almost what's a 10x, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, on the revenue side. Yeah.
And you can see that kind of excitement shown in the charts. I think it was a little bit more hype in this particular move on the screen here. But subsequently, it's come back down and perhaps given us a bit of an opportunity for a future trade. Of course, it's not financial advice, as I mentioned many times, but it's one I like for the future, not just for the short-term trade. Simple goal of 32.50 in mind. I think it's about 13% off the top of my head. And obviously a stop loss somewhere around kind of 24 would be where I start the stop loss. But if we do get that break, I'll bring that stop loss up right away around kind of where it is now. But yeah, that's my thoughts on HIMS. Are you looking to trade HIMS in the future?
No, I actually have a couple of. It's on my watch list. I do sell options on HIMS here and there, but not for next week. I'm already tied up with my capital. So
yeah, fair enough. Cool. I think we'll move on from this one then. We'll see what HIMS does, and we can see if I can make it 7-0. 7 in a row. But yeah, I had to squeeze it in there. Okay.
Considering my picks, how they are performing, I have no hope next week as well. But let's go.
But yeah, we'll see. Of course, you can find me on X at Sean Trades _, posting fairly daily there on kind of trading insights, etc. YouTube as well. I had a video come out yesterday all around kind of day trading, well, not day trading, trading with a day job, should I say. So if you're working full time, it could be interesting to get some tips and stuff to kind of trade around working. And of course, you've got TTR as well, which is a trading community that I have, and all the details for that are on my X profile, which you're probably watching me there now. So yeah, appreciate that. And we'll move on to Kay's pick of the week, which is Apple.
Yes. So considering Apple generally moves 3 to 4% post earnings, that's what we're looking at, about $8-9. We do have a gap fill that we could expect for the stock to fill. However, so in the last couple of weeks that we have been having this competition, most of my picks are not for the week, but
No,
we are considering that it's a week, like, because I generally look at position trades or swing trades. But in general, I'm bearish on Apple, so I don't expect Apple to go up. But again, I'll probably be wrong here. But my thesis on Apple is that there are two major big problems with Apple. Number one is Apple. Forget the tariff, right? The whole China tariff, India tariff, all that is, put that on the side for a second. The biggest problem with is that they have their Apple Intelligence. There is no product that I'm getting a 18 emojis update from Apple software. I'm not going to upgrade my phone. Okay. And if the tariffs continue, the price of the phone will go up, whether it goes up 10%, 5%, I don't know. That will deter people from buying the phone. So I see there's a lot of bullishness in Apple from the analysts. We understand Apple is a very, very big company. It's in every single fund that you can think of. But realistically, I don't see how Apple can proceed. Their Vision Pro was a flop. On the other hand, Meta has actually upgraded to Ray-Ban, where you can use the AI feature within the glasses. I haven't used it personally. I've seen few people use it. So if anybody in the audience has used it, how was your feedback? You can let us know in the comments. But Apple doesn't have a product like that. So my I am very bearish on Apple at this point in time. So I don't understand how you are paying so much premium on Apple when none of their products are working. Okay, take it back. None of their products are innovative at this point in time, as well as um, then you have a China tariff, and seems like it just spinning the business out to India. You still cannot provide all the phones from India today. Just the demand to meet the demand of US. So, what is Apple going to do?
Yeah, it's got some tricky times ahead, isn't it? I mean, it did be interesting to see what they say on Thursday.
It is, and if you look at the chart from a long-term perspective, it's still making lower highs. So
It
yes,
is,
the stock is up, but does that mean that we are going to make an all-time high? I don't think so. I think it's going to probably get, even if it fills the gap, I think we'll probably get rejected after the gap fill if it happens, and we'll continue to make lower highs.
I think we've seen some tricky times from Microsoft as well in the last couple of years, and they've kind of plateaued for the last basically 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
We might be seeing a similar situation with Apple at the moment. So, lack of innovation, as you mentioned, and the kind of forward-thinking products. Yes, they produce a lot of cash, of course, but obviously with the tariffs as well impacting them for the longer term, it might be a little bit more of a less exciting stock, but still, a cash flow beast.
Yeah.
They still make their money, but maybe just not as forward thinking as people might be thinking.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not debating about the legitimacy of Apple or how good the stock is. No. I'm just saying at this point in time, why do I need to pay 25, 20, 30 times the earnings when the stock actually there is no product lineup? Because the whole point is that you have some innovative feature that comes out that forces users to upgrade. That is the whole thesis behind Apple, right? Today you have an Apple iPhone. I have a 14. I'm not going to upgrade this year. I'm not going to upgrade next year either, right? I don't see any value of upgrading it. I'm getting the latest software anyways. I'm getting those stupid emojis with upgrade, but that's not going to force me to upgrade unless I really see something. Oh my god, this Apple Intelligence is a game changer.
Until you see the proof, you're not
Exactly.
going to be buying the pudding.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think going back to the chart, then obviously you've got that line, which is ironically the current target price, the current price line.
Yeah.
You've actually got support back here in March, and then again we kind of got support and resistance around these areas last year as well through the summer. We've also got the 200 moving average, which is not on the screen, but I did have a look at this earlier.
Yes.
The 200 moving average is coming right through, and we're right at that 200 moving average as a resistance.
Yep, 213.
That'll be interesting to see if it can kind of break through, because if we see good earnings from Microsoft and Meta on Wednesday, it will obviously propel SPY and QQQ up, which will probably bring Apple up, in terms like that. So that will bring it through the 200 moving average and maybe through the trend line.
Correct.
But that will be interesting to see if it can hold going into Thursday with their earnings, because it's most likely going to be a little bit mundane. And to be fair, the last probably 6 or 7 quarters, if I'm being a little bit dramatic, but 6 or 7 quarters have been very underwhelming for Apple.
It has been. And if you look at the move of Apple, right, it really hasn't been any major move for Apple, honestly. It's only 3 to 4%. So like looking at $8-9.
Yeah, so plenty of thoughts kind of going through to Apple then for this weekend, okay, isn't it?
Yep.
Where can we find you?
You can find me on X. I post pretty much every day. I haven't updated videos on YouTube, but now I'm finished with all my traveling from work. So you will see a lot more videos. And I think I'll make a video on Google and Apple. I did promise to make a video on Apple as well. So more to come in the next week, and the following weeks it'll be all about the Max 7s. And then I write, and then I also write on Substack.
And we've got SoFi as well coming up on Tuesday, so maybe
I might even cover. I might even cover the. By the way, I did post a trading earnings trade a couple weeks back on SoFi to lead up to the earnings. So it went pretty well for me. I did close that trade out as well. But I will do a pre-video. Maybe I'll even cover the earnings and see how it plays out.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing that one then. We'll get into the chart requests. I'll stick it up on the screen. So I think we've got quite a few already.
Correct.
But put your tip requests in the comments down below while I get the the chart sorted out for us to have a look at.
So one of the requests was Apple. So we did cover Apple. So we'll move ahead with the other request, and then I have two other optional ones. Later we can touch upon Google and SMCI if we have time. So we'll cover all the audience requests first, and then if we have time, we'll cover Google SMCI.
Of course, awesome. Right, we'll get rid of that banner as well, and let's jump into the first stock. What have we got?
First
Okay,
is Meta.
Meta. Right.
Yeah.
This one is not looking too good from what I remember. Oh no, it is. I think it was Microsoft I was thinking of. But yeah, Meta, not too bad actually. It's kind of looking like it might be breaking out of this trend line, much like the Spider QQQ already have. But we've still got a lot underway. And I've drawn this box from previous months, really, because this is why I thought it would bounce. But it's obviously gone subsequently lower, come back up and used it as resistance, and then gone lower again, and might be coming back up to use it as resistance again. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on Meta? Do you think they can beat on earnings on Wednesday?
This is my concern with Meta. One of the biggest revenue driver from Meta is advertisement on Meta platform, right?
Yeah.
And if we continue to see these trade wars, because there hasn't been a single deal, it's what, day 15, day 16, 0 deals. So the problem is there are no deals, and especially if the deal with China doesn't play out. Remember, most of these sellers, they advertise on Facebook. So the revenue for Facebook is going to get a hit. The ad revenue, and that is a big part of the Facebook engine. And if you look at this, I started using the 300-day SMA. We are sitting right at the trend line of 300-day SMA. This last little doji candle that you see, it's actually hitting right at that 300-day SMA.
I'll change. I don't know why that's the 60 moving average. That should be the 20.
Yeah,
I should probably change
do a
that.
300 and you'll see.
So yeah, I use the smooth moving average.
You're using the smooth one. Maybe that's the reason. So if you don't use the smooth one, it's sitting right this at 550. Yeah, 547.63 is, you're sitting right below that with a doji candle. So the reason you have a doji candle is because market wants to see what the guidance is going to be. So we have 26 down revisions from Wall Street on the stock.
I'll put it in there for you. There you go. It's the green line.
Yeah, see?
There you go. I don't know why I had the 60 moving average. That's weird. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing more to add really for Meta.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's being a stock that is reporting earnings, that is something that you should watch. How is their ad revenue going to play out in the next coming quarters? Next up is Nike.
Okay, didn't you speak about this one not so long ago?
I did, and listen, I mean, I know that on there are a lot of bearish momentum on Nike, but I still think that it is going to have an upside. I mean, there are a lot of gap downs that we had in Nike. So the stock used to be trading around the 120 mark. We had that first gap down around 2023 December, right? We dumped the stock, and then since we have been on a downtrend continuously. Now, should you get into Nike? I think from a long-term perspective, so far they have kind of formed this support at $53, $53, $54. Couple trading days. Are they reporting earnings? Let me check.
So we've got them on the 26th of June.
So far away. We have a down revision as well for the next earnings. You will see. So unless you see some kind of a breakout and retest, I would not enter Nike at this point in time because they're still trending down and it's still making lower highs. And there are just too many gaps to fill. By the way, at some point in time, Nike will present an opportunity for you to add, because then it starts to become asymmetrical bet.
Yeah, we've got a bit of an RSI divergence here on the screen. I'll just move us over. I mean, it's not really, but it's just a bit less dramatic. So down here, obviously, you've got lots of negative RSI, and then it's just a little bit less so over here. But obviously, with that kind of price action being a bit higher, and now it's a bit lower, it's kind of alternating, therefore creating a bit of an RSI divergence. So that typically looks towards maybe a trend reversal, but it's only one sign for that, and you shouldn't really go by just that particular move. But it's there to be seen by people.
Yeah. So the forward PE right now for Nike is 28.6. The fair value based on Simply Wall Street is about 110, and you're trading at 57. So there's a lot of under. But the point is, if you want to add Nike at this spot, maybe don't go your full position. Maybe do quarter of your position to start building out if you believe in Nike as a brand for investment, because there at some point in time it will present a very good opportunity for an asymmetrical bet.
Do you reckon
But
it's the biggest player in its field?
I'm sorry.
Do you reckon it's the biggest player in its field? So
It
you've got
it
companies like
is.
On and
It is,
Adidas.
but there hasn't been any innovation for a long time with the previous CEO. You did bring a new CEO into the fray, so it will take some time. Remember, Peloton also had a similar problem. They did turn things around. Okay, the stock hasn't, bounced back a lot for Peloton, but the CEO did make main changes, right? We saw similar structure with other companies as well. I don't exactly have the that in my mind. I think was it Lululemon that they brought the new CEO. I forget.
I'm not sure.
It's
I can't
it's
remember.
been a while that they had a change in the CEO, but I don't think Nike as a brand is dead. Oh, sorry, Starbucks. Starbucks. Yes. So Starbucks had the Indian CEO, Indian American CEO, and then they brought in the guy from Chipotle, the
Oh
CEO
yeah,
from
I remember
Chipotle.
now. Yeah.
So it took a while for Starbucks to turn around, right? So it will happen for Nike as well. And the problem is when things are down, you'll see all the bears come out with all the. But end of the day, Nike has a very recognizable brand.
Yeah, I mean, just do it at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no harm in potentially starting a position here and having a tight stop loss here. And we spoke about it earlier
If
with
you're
stop losses.
trading, yes, and if
If
you're
you're
looking for
trading,
long-term investment, um, I would still wait for a better entry because it's still in a downtrend.
exactly right. So that's Nike, and we covered
Okay,
that quite extensively. What's next?
next is Uber.
Uber. Yes.
All
I
right.
remember you talking about this one a little bit earlier. I'll let you take the reps for this one because I know you're quite excited about Uber at the moment.
No, so again, Uber is my top 5 stocks for 2025 because it presents an asymmetrical bet as well. I know a lot of Tesla fans or fanatics. They think that Uber will go out of business. I think you are severely underestimating Uber, but that's for another discussion. I do think that we did hit this resistance level of 77.75, and that's why we got rejected from that resistance level. So it will be interesting to see if they can break this or not. I mean, I wouldn't start a new position until we see a break, a test of the break and the retest. You could um, have play a put credit spread here, right? I mean, the point of contact is about 72. So this range is I like this range of 73 and 78, the $5 range to really sell options on.
Yeah,
And I
it's
mean,
interesting to see from a long-term point of view as well. You've got this kind of ascending triangle with resistance, quite firm resistance, as you mentioned, around this kind of. Well, I've got it down as 80, but yours is a bit lower. But if we do break out of that, that'll be very exciting. That
mm.
would be very exciting, which could definitely happen.
But
I'm not
considering
saying it will.
your style of trading, you do want to see a retest
Oh, yeah,
before.
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, I mean, I don't always have to see it. It depends how much volume is involved. So in that candle, if there's a lot of volume and it closes at the top of that, normally means that perhaps that volume will continue, or at a steady-ish pace. In which case you kind of confirm that break just with the volume. But yeah, typically if the volume is flat and you have broken that, then obviously waiting for it to come back down and retest is my ideal entry. But kind of depends on what we're looking at really. We've got a question here. Well, I say more of a statement, really. Boom, crash, bang. We've got do SPY. We did SPY a bit earlier on. If you're new to this, we do kind of SPY and QQQ first, and then we go through our own picks, and then we go through audience requests. And I'm not too sure what nobody thinks that is a reference to, but yeah, we'll move on, shall we? So Uber's looking pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah. And I think we also had another comment for, I think when we were discussing Meta, we had that comment. In Europe, we do not have
Oh
tariffs.
yeah, I missed that one. Sorry, Carmen.
In Europe, we do not have tariffs. FB can show ads from China in the rest of the world but USA. Yes, but USA is one of the biggest markets. So if you are not able to show enough revenue, right? If you will see a revenue decline in US, so that's going to be a major hit on Meta. So that's something to also track on. And guess that if actually Meta falls, it gives you an opportunity to buy another Max 7 at better valuation, right?
Exactly, and that's what we're here for, isn't it? Buying the
All
best
right.
companies at lower prices.
Next up, Nvidia.
Nvidia. I think this one's looking quite exciting, you know.
Yeah, but that
What?
depends also. It's a very news driven market these days, right? So
And
if
on a technical basis, though.
yeah, well, it hasn't broken the downtrend yet, right? From if you draw that, it did have a pretty solid candle, though. I will give you that.
Yeah, it's got a good Thursday and Friday candle, obviously kind of breaking-ish through that kind of purple line. I don't know why my line's changed colour, but purple line coming through here. So what we need to do, that is kind of technically-ish a break, but we did have a lot of kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
we could probably bring that up actually to make it a bit more sense, perhaps. But we need a good clean break and then a candle after that to kind of follow that, and then you've kind of got a clean break. So it'd be interesting to see if you can get through that. And then by the time you've done that, you've got the 50-moving average to get through. So there's plenty of work to do for NVIDIA. I'll just quickly look at SMH because I think it is also looking pretty rough in terms of resistance. Here we've got the 200-moving average coming up for the SMH as well, which is obviously big resistance. Used it as a bit of support here back in kind of March area, and then blasted through it with all the volatility to the downwards trajectory there. But we'll go back to NVIDIA and I'll let you have a little look at the chart. Oh, I'll just put the wrong thing. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you will. I think if we can have this break of the trend line, we could the other resistance you will see is around the 50 SMA of around 115. But then you have a lot of trading going on until like the 119, 120. So that is the real. If we can actually break that, then you have a clean clean break until like 130 or so, because there's really not much volume between 120 and 130. We haven't really played that much in that area.
I've noticed in the past as well, NVIDIA does move at $10 increments.
So if you can have a clean break at 120, I wouldn't be surprised that we are actually trading around the 135, 138, 139 level.
I'm sure NVIDIA bulls are looking forward to that happening.
Again, keep an eye on the event, right? The news cycle. And one bad news cycle, it will just push the stock back down again.
Especially for a company with so much exposure into that kind of area. Yeah.
Okay, next up is SPS.
SBS.
SP is a parrot. S is a Sam, P is a parrot, S is a Sam. I don't know what that stock is though.
I've got it down here as crypto. SPS.
I have no idea. Okay, we can skip that one, I guess. Then.
We can click on it and see what happens. Obviously, someone's looking for some sort of coin knowledge. I mean, this is ridiculous. 0.01 it is currently. It went all the way up to 0.015. Yeah, I mean, this is not really something we look at generally. But basic technical analysis should have said. I'm not going to get into it.
Okay. Next up is MGM. That's the one that we were looking at.
Yeah. Okay. So this one is pretty much a gambling stock, isn't it?
It's a hotel also. MGM Resorts International. It's a hotel. The short interest is 6%. They have earnings coming up on 4:30, which is what, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that.
Price action not great.
And let's look at
the weekly chart here is not looking brilliant. Lots of successive lower highs kind of coming into where we are now. On the weekly chart as well, we've got that kind of resistance line of $34, 20, the 200-moving average and the 50-moving average above. So unless they, really, really post good numbers, it's going to be tricky to see more upside. Perhaps we use that as resistance and we see a lower low.
So I have a take on that one as well. So if you follow the news events where we are hearing that the tourism industry has taken a hit and folks are not traveling to US, so that will be reflected in MGM's future guidance. So if that is the case, we might even see a decline, and that could be an opportunity for you to add to the position or take that kind of a trade. So you could play that way. Actually, Iron Condor might not be a bad idea in this situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have this is the 2-week chart, and I've been bringing this up fairly regularly, I think, in the last month or so. And I've kind of got attached to it slightly. Not that I'm using it as gospel, but I like to see the kind of price action through obviously different stocks around the kind of 2-week chart. But you can see it here quite clearly on MGM. We've got lots of support over here back in 2019, which just sounds ridiculous, but obviously we've got resistance here throughout 2020, which is a tricky year for many companies. Again, nice big support around early parts of 2022, and we're kind of seeing that now. Had a bit of a scare, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, and now kind of pushing up on this candle. So maybe we are using that 200 moving average again as a bit of support for MGM. So there's a little bit of hope for bulls there if you're looking at that. So that's kind of a bit more of a technical read, but that's kind of what I like to do anyway. So you know what that means.
Yeah. So that makes a lot more sense. Next up is SoFi.
SoFi earnings on Tuesday before the market opens. Is that right?
Yes.
We'll jump into the daily chart. That's the weekly chart. Daily chart's looking pretty good. I think we spoke about this one last week about the potential of it kind of breaking out, coming back down and retesting it and moving higher. And it's done exactly that. And I missed the move. Of course, I missed the move. But of course, we said Monday was here, kind of traded flat. Tuesday was quite exciting. We gapped up really nicely on Wednesday. And then we come back down, we tested kind of during that day and then pushed up Thursday, Friday. Did you get into this one, Kay? Well, you're in it, but what are your thoughts on SoFi at the moment?
So I think when we created that gap down back in January, I don't think we are going to have a straight shot on SoFi because let me see how much SoFi generally moves. Implied move, 1 second. So SoFi's implied move is post earnings is about what?
It must be quite a lot. It's normally about 8%, I reckon, 8-9%.
Yeah, absolutely right. So
that's my guess. I'm waiting to see if I'm right.
Man, they changed the UI on this one, so it's hard to tell nowadays.
Well, while you're doing that, we've got obviously requests from Hood as well. I see you, New Year UK. Good to see you here on the stream. We've got Amazon as well. We want to have a look at.
Yep.
And NQ, which we kind of covered earlier with QQQ. So go ahead and kind of rewind back.
16%.
16%. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
16% average move for SoFi.
Yeah.
But yeah, just CL, I don't know how to call your name. But yeah, we covered QQQ kind of in the first 5-10 minutes or so. So you can go ahead and rewind and check that out back there. But it's looking pretty promising so far, at least.
And again, I think from the results, they'll most likely do a beat again. They'll probably have increased the number of subscribers. The subscriber growth will be phenomenal. But I think also we have to keep in mind that at some point in time, you will start to see the subscriber growth plateau as well. There's only so many people in US unless they expand the market overseas.
Yeah, but I think that what their total addressable market is still plenty to go, isn't it? They haven't consumed the whole of the US, and I think that's kind of their goal.
Correct.
Yeah, so there's still plenty of room for growth. It's just how quickly they can do it and how many people they can kind of convince that they're the real deal.
Yeah, but keep in mind they have 9 down revisions for the upcoming quarter.
Interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah, so you will definitely see a beat because they generally do a beat on both top and bottom line. It's just the question is how big the beat is going to be and how but again, it could be a same situation. Buy the rumor, sell the news, right? You might see a stock run up and then post reporting, even though it's great earnings, the stock goes down. Okay, next up is MU.
We're getting through those tickers, so those people that are kind of putting them through now, we will get to those because we've still got plenty of time left. Oh no, we've got 15 minutes. But yeah, we've still got plenty of time left, so we should get through the ones that are on the screen now. And if any that you kind of put through now might be tricky to get through, but yeah, keep putting them in. Why not? MU. I mean, what a chart this is! This is the daily chart, and it's just all over the place. Loads of gaps, which is quite interesting from Micron. I don't normally get that gappy, or at least I've never noticed it.
I mean, if you look at the way you have drawn the top and the bottom,
the zone,
right? This is ideal for wheel strategy.
Yeah.
But the problem is your zone is too wide.
Yes, that's what, a $30 or $20.
Yeah, exactly. That's too wide of a zone. But that's the kind of ideal zone you need for wheel strategy.
So there's a nice bounce off of the weekly 200 moving average. We can see it back in late parts of 2022. This kind of area, kind of struggling around this area. Subsequently moved up nicely, of course, with the kind of semi-boom, I guess you could call it. come back down with the market the way it's been, and of course, kind of use that as a bit of support here as well. Obviously, the volume is here around that $70 level, kind of pushing up. If we can get through this 50 moving average, which is the white line flowing through the screen, then there's definitely potential for this to kind of go back into the hundreds, especially if we get good earnings, which looks like it's kind of around the 23rd of June. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely positivity coming from the semiconductor industry as a whole.
Can you
apart
tell
from tariffs,
when the earning
obviously.
is? Can you tell when the earning is? I can't see it on Seeking Alpha.
Yeah, I've got it here. If I jump into the daily, it'll tell me. We've got earnings on the 25th of June, so that will be so far ahead. It'll be kind of a rough area, so it'll be that week. But there's no specific date because it's a bit too far ahead in the future. But I think with the way that semis are kind of bouncing at the moment, there is a little bit of hope, of course, for all the semiconductor names. But I would probably keep an eye on SMH and Nvidia before you start diving into any other semiconductors, whether it be Marvel
or even AMD, right? Even AMD.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's another good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up is CDNS. It's Cadence Design Systems.
And apparently they report earnings on Monday. I think I saw that.
Yeah, we have never covered this stock, so
I don't know. I think we have. We've got some lines on here, and I don't. This is not a stock I cover, so we must have covered it at some point.
Okay.
It's doing well the last week or so. Doing really well, actually. It's quite a big stock. $289.
It is a $79 billion company. It's a pretty big market cap. They have 11 down revisions, 3 up revisions on EPS, and let's see.
This is not bad, actually.
They generate a revenue of $1.36 billion for being an $80 billion company on the market cap. Sorry, yeah, $80 billion, and they generate $1 billion.
Oh, look at that bounce off the 50 moving average on the weekly chart. That is pinpoint. If you got in then, obviously, well done. The next step would be, I mean, from my trading perspective, I would wait for this 326 level to break, come back down, retest it, and then make a move higher. There's no harm if you have a particular strategy of playing to a support or resistance. There's no harm in kind of having a look at where it is now and then playing it towards that kind of 326 level. Of course, that will go down to your rules, your risk management, etc. It's not something I would do personally, but it's something to definitely look out for, especially when you've got this kind of resistance level here. And obviously, well, actually, you could drag that back all the way back here. This resistance / support level, kind of 280, being broken currently. So that's quite exciting if you're into that. And whoever's brought that up, I'll see if I can get the comment. Charles Lovelace Turin. That's a very long name. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. Hope that helps. We'll move on to the next one.
Next is Hood.
Hood. Yes, last week's pick for me. Doing very, very well. I think he brought that one up just for a laugh. I'm joking. But of course, we've got lots of price action. I mean, the reasons I brought it up last week was just the amount of confluence. We've got volume profile. We've got 2 basically trend lines, like a trend channel, I guess. Support resistance and the previous trend line as well. Subsequently, it's bounced off of that. Of course, I didn't trade it because I forgot about it and I was busy doing life. But it's the ones you miss that always play out.
So since you brought this up, why don't you bring up SMCI also?
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Any thoughts on Hood?
No, I mean, at this point in time, it's just, trend is your friend until something changes.
Yeah, of course, we do have a previous high set here about 49, so we need to get through that 49.50 level, and then basically, it's trend is your friend, manage your risk, and then kind of remember why you're trading along the way. SMCI, let's have a look at that one.
Yeah, and it was if you notice, that was at the same spot we had the last time, right? Either the breakout or the breakdown, and we had a breakout on SMCI. Yeah.
I mean, it's only just begun as well, on my perspective, because obviously we had that kind of candle push out on Thursday, which you can see there, and there's a little small candle on Friday. So there's definitely a lot more room in the tank, especially towards this level of kind of 42, 43, which will probably excite you, Kay. But yeah, that's how I kind of read the chart. We've only just broken out in my eyes. I'm not saying it's going to continue, but it's looking good at the moment.
Yep. All right, let's go back to Amazon. That's the next one.
Amazon. Right, sorry, I had to write that one down. This one's also looking good from a breakout point of view, but we do have earnings on Thursday, so I'm staying well away from it.
Exactly.
you could play this into earnings, like going up to the 200, because it's got that momentum, it's got the volume profile. So you could potentially have a trade going into earnings, but I wouldn't take it through earnings.
And the problem, so the general earnings season is you are just you're looking at the stock, you're looking at the news, general news event, and the business model. On top today, you have the tariff situation. So any tariff news, so if I give you an example. So on a positive side, if Besant comes out and say, hey, we have cleared the stage 1 of our negotiations with China, and he says it right on the day of Amazon earnings, the stock is going to go off the roof. Just like how Elon Musk said on Tesla earnings, he's going to step back. And we had a stock up 17% or about 25% for the week. So something like that could happen. Or on the flip side, he could say, our negotiations have broken down. Guess what's going to happen to Amazon stock? So
I think it's a testament to how much you probably need to, keep an eye on the market at the moment.
Yeah.
Especially if you're actively trading. So if you've got active positions, whether it be swing trading or day trading, definitely keep an eye on the market. I know it's tricky with everything going on in life, but it's definitely something to just, put forward. I'm sure you all are, but of course, just a little reminder. But yeah, I mean, Amazon on Thursday, I'll be probably covering the call. I won't be covering it live, but I'll be listening to it. So yeah, I'm interested to see what happens.
Next is your favorite stock, NEO.
Oh, wow. I haven't had this one for a while. Yeah, I mean, it's going pretty well, actually, of late. It's been up about 30% in the last couple of weeks. The only thing is, the last couple of years, it's been down about 90. But we've got, what was it I found a couple of weeks ago? RSI divergence seems to be playing out quite nicely so far. So we can see on the screen, I'll move it over so you can kind of see it. You can see on the screen, price action was trending downwards, and we got a new lower low, kind of set about 3 weeks ago, around kind of $3 mark. But the strength was there, so people are still interested in the stock. People are buying it at these levels, so much so it's creating a divergence. And you can see that with the blue lines that are kind of, going against each other. We've gone back above 365, which is really nice to see, and in quite good fashion as well. Now it's about kind of getting back up to kind of 450 to $5 level where the volume is, and we've got earnings probably maybe 4 to 5 weeks time. There's not been such date released just yet, but it's normally towards the end of the earnings season.
So Sean, I have a question for you. Since you are a NEO, you follow NEO very closely. Did the delivery numbers for NEO go up?
Well, we haven't had obviously April's yet, but they are expected. April's are expected to be very, very good.
Okay.
But generally, as a trend goes over the years, the last 3 months have been good. Yes.
Okay.
They haven't been outstanding.
Because Tesla's numbers went down. That's why I was interested. If NEO seen any similarity, or is it just the Tesla issue?
It's just the Tesla, but I think that's probably just the Chinese market in general. So the Chinese people are probably buying more Chinese cars, whether it be XPeng, Li Auto, or NIO, of course. I think they're generally kind of moving more towards the Chinese-made cars, which makes sense. But yeah, there's definitely plenty more in the tank for NIO. But it's been a very long, arduous ride, and I'm ready for a green year. I hope they deliver. But they seem to be doing pretty well on a fundamental view. Anyway, we'll move on from
before we cover a couple other tickers from the same individual. Let's cover Palantir first. Because
so we got this comment, didn't we, from Carmen? What about Palantir?
Yeah. So
Palantir's had another stonking week, hasn't it? Wow,
yeah.
I didn't realize it.
Kathy Woods came out and wrote that Palantir is. She didn't mean it. I mean, she didn't say it in a way, but it's going to dethrone Microsoft. I mean, Palantir. Yeah. So I leave. I didn't want to say anything. It's just like.
So you don't have any real raw thoughts on the fact it can dethrone Microsoft? I mean, it's a pretty impressive feat if it can, because it's going to take a long time as well.
So in the world, there are all sorts of companies, right? Not every company has billions and billions of dollars to spend on expensive SaaS products. How are you going to replace an Excel spreadsheet? And then you have these comments from people, you're like, oh, it's going to replace Excel spreadsheet. How is Palantir going to replace Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, there's probably not. Excel is Excel, isn't it? It's been in systems.
It's not happening next quarter. It's not happening in the next 4 quarters. It's not probably happening in the next 5 years. Because Kathy Wood has been talking about Tesla hitting what, $3,000, by the way, after the split.
Yeah.
And every year the 5-year mark just keeps moving along. So Kathy Wood should first work on her own portfolio to fix it, because her art flagship is down considerably.
I'm pretty sure they sold Palantir at about $7 or $9 as well
Okay.
before it
And then
went
it
up
ran up,
higher.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe not
Like
take her word
she
as
became a
gospel.
Palantir bull suddenly, right? She wasn't a Palantir bull back in the day. She was all about Tesla.
But even with all that noise, we've got lots of good momentum here for Palantir. It's just whether we can see a break through that kind of $125 level.
But what do you think would be the catalyst that would break that, right? What
It'll be
exactly?
earnings. It'll be earnings. Yeah, the earnings the last 3-4 quarters have been insane,
So that's
especially for
coming
forward
up
guidance as
in
well.
what, 2 weeks, right? 5.
Yeah, so not far, a couple of weeks away.
So this company, it doesn't even. Oh wow, it's a $265 billion company. Doesn't even make 1 billion in revenue, and that's.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of future in the stock rather than present, if you see what I mean. But yeah, we'll move on from Palantir now. Hope we
Okay.
covered
Next
that
up
one.
is I've never heard of this stock, CTTAY. I don't know what that is.
Continental AG.
Is that an American company? No, it doesn't sound like it.
It sounds like the wolf. Not the wolf. The tires. Sorry, this person just put wolf in the chat, and I just read it.
Okay.
But I think they do tires. No, is that
The
Continental?
Continental tires. Okay,
Yeah,
I see.
not a stock I look at or probably will ever look at because it's an OTC market, so I don't really normally trade that.
Wall Street has a buy rating, but it's only one rating. One analyst has rated this one.
I mean, if you like it, go for it. But it's been downtrending for quite some time. I'd like it to get above a few moving averages before it does anything. But this is the last 5 years of trading, and it's just not looking too pretty in my eyes. Yeah, we'll move on from that one. We've got what?
Next one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Next one is DLAKY. That's the Lufthansa Airlines, I think. DLAKY. Yeah.
Lufthansa, yeah.
Yeah.
I must have missed these ones. Oh, yeah, those ones, yeah. Okay, so this Lufthansa, a bit more of a European trader, maybe perhaps this one. But lots of volume at this kind of level, $6.50 to $7. Pushing off of it, but still below one of the moving averages. And airlines at the moment not in favour, are they? Okay, I'm just looking at Boeing.
Yeah, I mean, considering the tourism has really taken a hit, and especially with tariffs going up, and all the uncertainties, like again, the geopolitical situation, the wars and everything has still raging on, right? So that's gonna be another hit. Let me see, what else did we get? Did we get anything else?
We've got Waste Management is one I can see.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
We've also
They're
got
reporting
CRISPR.
earnings. WM is reporting earnings, I think Monday, I believe.
We'll do CRISPR first because I think that came
Oh,
up.
CRISPR is another one from Kathy
Yeah.
Woods. Yeah,
It is,
long
yeah.
time.
I used to cover this stock back in 2020. It doesn't
Man,
seem they've done much since then.
dude, that stock ran up $219 and now it's trading at $38. Oh my goodness.
Bit of an RSI divergence happening. You can't quite see it, but if I move that over, you've got obviously lower points of strength coming a bit higher, but the actual stock overall is going down. These are actually down lines; they're not straight lines. There you go. That makes that a bit more obvious for you. So yeah, I mean, it's in a technically good place, but there still needs to be a lot more to make it attractive to me, at least. It's still below any sort of resistance levels. You've got volume here, we've got 50 moving average and 200 moving average here, and that's just a weekly. The daily is not going to look much better than that. Yeah, that's the daily, so it looks probably worse actually.
You're going the waste management WM as well.
Yeah, we'll do that one. And we'll make that the last one because we're running over now about 4 or 5 minutes. So waste management will be the last one. So is this a dividend paying stock? It is, isn't it?
It is a dividend paying stock, yes, and it's in a nice uptrend.
Do you invest in waste management?
No, not particularly. But I know a lot. I know a lot of people invest though, who are dividend investors.
It's quite mixed on the actual earning success as well. You've got a couple of misses here. You can see down
Correct.
here with the red shield, the green shield, the red shield, green.
Yeah, and we have a 13 down revision for the upcoming earnings. Because I don't follow the stock, I don't really know why that would be the case. I'm assuming could be an impact due to tariff, I guess.
Maybe. I mean, I think one thing from a technical point of view here, you've obviously got lots of price action between this kind of 204 level and 213. If we do get negative earnings and you do like this company for the long term, that would definitely be an area for me, because you've got the 200 moving average there, the volume profile, as I mentioned, and obviously all of the price action alongside that. It'd be pretty rough if it gets down there, because it's over 10%. But if there's going to be anywhere that I like on the chart, it's that, because that's where the strength comes in.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we covered quite a few stocks today. Don't know how many tickers it was, but it was quite a lot, and we do appreciate all of them that come in every week, all the way through the streams. Of course, we do this every week at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So do come back next week. Actually, I've got to speak to you about next week, but there won't be one next week because I'm away at a stag do, and I literally won't be here. So it'll be very tricky for me to do this. So we'll take next week off. Sorry, Kay, for just announcing that to you right now.
That was a surprise. I should have known this before.
Yeah. But there you go. There's a nice surprise for the audience as well. So we'll take a week off next week, and we'll be back the week after at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, sorry for the confusion there, Kay. But yeah, once again, thank you very much for letting us use the platform. We really appreciate it. We couldn't get the audience without you. Any last words you want to say around the trading aspect, perhaps, Kay?
No, I guess next week is going to be a pretty volatile week. It's going to be a very interesting week, at least for keeping everybody pretty on the hook, I guess, since all the big Max 7s are reporting earnings.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. There was four of them, aren't they? Reporting on Wednesday and Thursday. So it's going to be quite an incredible week. So just stick to your rules. Obviously, keep that risk management flowing, and then have a really good week and trade safe, everyone. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.